The most critical fighter jet in the United States Navy isn't the fastest. It isn't the stealthiest. It doesn't make headlines like the F-35 or F-22. Yet if it disappeared tomorrow, American carrier strike groups would lose more than half their operational capability almost instantly. This aircraft was never meant to dominate. It was meant to fill a stopgap born from canceled programs and budget shortfalls. And yet, it outlasted the jets it was supposed to replace. It carried the Navy's mission for decades. It became the backbone of naval air power, quiet, reliable, almost invisible in strategic discussions. Tonight, we're asking a question few people have considered. How does a fighter that wasn't supposed to matter end up shaping the future of naval aviation? And what does that tell us about the way modern wars are actually fought? The story begins in the 1970s. The United States Navy already had the F-14 Tomcat, fast, deadly in the air, and a symbol of Cold War dominance. But the Tomcat wasn't enough. The Navy needed a fighter that could do it all: air-to-air combat, ground attack, reconnaissance, and carrier operations. It needed a multi-role aircraft that was cheap, reliable, and easy to maintain, a jet that could survive long deployments at sea. Enter the F/A-18 Hornet. The Hornet's designers borrowed the best ideas from the era: twin engines for safety, a rugged airframe for carrier landings, and early fly-by-wire controls for precision handling. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the fastest. It wasn't designed to capture the public's imagination. But from its first flights, it proved something crucial: versatility could outweigh raw performance. Over Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan, the Hornet became a workhorse, delivering bombs and missiles where needed while surviving environments that would have grounded more delicate aircraft. Even so, the Navy wanted more. They needed something bigger, longer range, more powerful, something that could carry heavier payloads and survive the unexpected. The Super Hornet wasn't born from vision or ambition. It was born from failure. The A-12 Avenger II program, meant to be the next generation stealth strike fighter, collapsed under skyrocketing costs and technical problems. The Navy had a choice: wait years for a replacement or upgrade the Hornet. The answer: the Super Hornet. At first glance, it looked familiar, but everything was bigger. Longer fuselage, larger wings, more fuel. 2 extra weapon stations. Internally, fuel capacity increased by 33%. Range increased by 50%. Every modification was engineered for endurance, survivability, and adaptability. It wasn't designed to win dogfights. It was designed to keep the fleet operational under pressure. And in that mission, it excelled. On a carrier, a jet isn't judged by its top speed. It's judged by takeoff and landing performance, maintainability, and payload flexibility. The Super Hornet takes off in less distance than the legacy Hornet, even at full load. Landing is smoother, with advanced auto-throttle systems that consider stick movement, glide slope, and carrier deck conditions. Fuel capacity allows multiple recovery attempts with heavy payloads, something a fully loaded Hornet could struggle with. Pilots often say, the Hornet is agile, but the Super Hornet gives confidence. It's forgiving, it's predictable. When a carrier deck is pitching in high seas, every extra knot of safety margin matters. Range is power. The Hornet has a combat range of about 1,250 miles with minimal weapons, With 3 external tanks, its ferry range reaches 1,778 miles. The Super Hornet pushes this even further. Combat range is approximately 1,458 miles. Ferry range goes up to 1,898 miles. That's almost 200 miles farther than the Hornet. Payload capacity increased as well, with 2 extra weapon stations, larger pylons, and smart munitions. The Super Hornet can carry heavier, more diverse loads across longer distances without compromising safety or performance. And it's not just bombs and missiles. Electronic warfare variants like the EA-18G Growler can jam enemy radar, disrupt communications, and protect entire carrier groups. Without the Super Hornet family, U.S. carriers would lose both offensive and defensive flexibility in contested zones. The Hornet relied on the APG-73 radar, effective in its time, but honestly, limited by today's standards. The Super Hornet incorporated a suite of modern electronics, advanced processors, and fiber optic networks, conformal wideband antennas for low-profile data transmission, integrated defensive countermeasure systems, and smart weapons release technology. Pilots aren't just flying an aircraft, they're controlling a networked combat node, connecting with other jets, ships, and satellites in real time. EA-18G Growlers take it even further, providing complete electronic spectrum dominance. A silent but decisive battlefield advantage that really few outside military circles fully understand. The Super Hornet's success isn't just engineering, it's philosophy. The Navy avoided flashy, unproven technologies. They optimized for maintenance, reliability, and adaptability. Fewer parts, lower costs, rapid turnaround times on carrier decks. The jet became cheaper to operate than the Hornet, even while delivering more capability. In other words, practicality often trumps raw performance. In real combat, survival, range, and flexibility matter far more than turning rates or headline-making stealth features. The survival of the Super Hornet tells us something deeper about modern air power. Advanced programs like the F-35 face delays and cost overruns. Practical, reliable platforms remain essential. Carrier operations demand endurance over spectacle. This jet allows the U.S. Navy to project power anywhere in the world, without depending entirely on experimental technology. In conflicts with peer adversaries, this workhorse role is decisive. The F-35C is arriving, bringing stealth and networked capabilities. But it isn't perfect. The Super Hornet will continue to serve as a bridge, ensuring the Navy doesn't face capability gaps during transition. The bigger lesson high-tech fighter programs often falter. Sometimes the aircraft designed as a stopgap ends up becoming indispensable. The Super Hornet isn't glamorous. It doesn't dominate headlines. It isn't the fastest, stealthiest, or most futuristic fighter. But it proves a lesson most military planners understand intuitively. Survival, adaptability, and reliability outweigh flash and speed. Without it, carriers would struggle. Without it, fleet operations would be compromised. It's a quiet hero, the jet no one talks about but everyone depends on. Ask yourself, how many air forces could survive if their backbone disappeared tomorrow? Which aircraft truly defines modern naval power? The Hornet, the Super Hornet, or the F-35C? Comment below and stay tuned for the next Sky Brief Deep Dive.